Welcome everyone to another episode of Everything Imaginable. I am your host, Gary Cacciolillo. And before we get started, I want to thank everybody for listening and also thank the contributors to my show, who are Candace Sanderson, author of The Reluctant Messenger, Joseph Sinkavi, author of How to Kiss the Universe, Ms. Aida, author, psychic, spellcaster, root worker, and witch. You can find her at MsAida.com, MISSAIDA.com. And this episode is also sponsored by Ginger Glasser. And you can find Ginger at tarotbyginger.com. She's a tarot reader, evidential medium, and healer. And that is at tarotbyginger.com. And also Alan Questel. His site is uncommonsensing.com. And his book you can find on Amazon is Intentional Acts of Kindness. And that's Alan Questel. And now, without further ado, our guest for today is Neil. I remember pronouncing his last name, Gaur.
Gaur.
Gaur, and he is the owner of Portal to Ascension. And if you're listening to his podcast regularly, I'm sure you've heard people from his website on this show. Thanks for coming on, Neil.
Thank you for having me, Gary. It's good to be here.
So I don't know, did you have a particular topic you wanted to talk about today?
Yeah. I mean, okay, so the reason why I reached out to you is because of all the stuff going on with UFOs right now, UFO Disclosure in the last 4 weeks. I don't know if you have been following it at all.
Yeah. Yeah, some of the guys that Stephen Greer has come up with, and
Yeah, that too. But then before, even though Stephen Greer was kind of planning to do his press conference months ago, a few days before, maybe a week before, we had David Grush, the whistleblower, come out, right?
yeah, that was the big one.
Yeah. So first of all, it's kind of, I don't know, fishy or synchronistic that they were both coordinated at the same time. And some people speculate that they knew that Stephen Greer was going to do the press conference and they timed their release to get in front of it because there were some deep truths that were going to be released. Because the Stephen Greer, I don't know if you watched his press conference.
I
You had a
didn't.
chance to see that? Yeah, like the military whistleblowers that were up there were saying some mind blowing information, and we can kind of start with that. Like I'll just start with the last guy that went up. A contractor from Raytheon went up, said he was positioned at the South Pole in Antarctica, and there is some sort of device there, some directed energy weapon that they have pulling energy from underneath the ice in Antarctica that he has no idea where it's coming from, and this technology is able to create earthquakes around the world, right? So first of all, Raytheon contractor got his credentials out. Now he's like validating a conspiracy theorist of directed energy weapons. And then he said that the South Pole Station has this in the South Pole, you're able to track a specific type of light spectrum that comes off UFOs. So the South Pole Station is, in essence, being utilized as air traffic control for UFOs coming in and out of Earth's atmosphere.
I
Right?
interviewed somebody who was stationed at that location, and he said it was like a harp on crack.
Oh
It was like,
yeah.
it could do everything that harp could do, and but like on a much faster global scale.
Yeah, yeah. So like even so that's just one element. There's so much more mind blowing things that have been happening, but I would say that in itself, because there's so much information about, like, Linda Moulton Howe talks about it, Michael Salla talks about it, many other people talk about the ancient civilization in Antarctica, the
Mm-hmm.
Admiral Byrd and the whole Nazi thing, all these things that have been considered fringe to conspiracies, and even more fringe than the regular UFO subject. Kind of like even people within the UFO community don't take the extra step to be like, whoa, what's going on in Antarctica? Right? That's like a
Right.
section within that. So that in itself, from a contractor from Raytheon, was a huge validation. It kind of made me realize that a lot of the things that are even a little more extreme within the UFO community, like the extra part of the conspiracies, a lot of them are actually true. And how deep does the rabbit hole really go when it comes to what is going on with the interaction with extraterrestrials on this planet, and what is really known, and what kind of arrangements and agreements individual governments have with these beings?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's I believe that they've always been here. We're probably they would be here before us, I
Mhm.
believe. Um,
Yeah, before us, and
yeah,
then even so, the whole concept is: were they here before we got here and have been here since the whole time we've been here, and or were they the ones that even created us in the first place?
no, I
Right.
think they did create this. I mean, we're bipedal.
Right.
That
And that
natural.
gets into the whole jumping from a leap from one hominid species to Homo sapien happened in such a short period of time. One of the reasons why Darwinism is still a theory is because there is no transitionary fossils of Homo sapiens to become Homo sapiens.
Yeah,
We were one species and then we were another one.
right.
So what's been happening now is things that I never thought would happen. This Wisconsin senator was on this YouTube channel, regular YouTube channel, not conspiracy, nothing, because a lot of people that are just regular people are finding out about this information and they're like, wait a second, and they have big platforms, millions of people on YouTube. They're inviting people on it, having conversations. And so one of the senators was on this like kind of like a sports kind of bro like YouTube channel where they have like basketball, the dunking, with this whole setup there, and they're talking about UFOs. And the congressman from Wisconsin goes, "Well, what we when the guy says, who do you think these people are? Who's behind these craft?" And he goes, "Well, we think that they're either us from the future or they're very very ancient civilizations that have been here since the beginning." Conversations I never, dude, a congressperson on a regular mainstream platform having this, dude, it's amazing. When Tom DeLonge came out with his first level of his disclosure with
Hmm.
that was controlled drip disclosure based on the 3 videos that have been circulating everywhere. When that came out, after he was done with his live feed from his Twitter with Chris Mellon, Lou Elizondo, and the whole team, I started. I was like, oh my god, this is happening, it's happening. And then at the end of it all, I'm like, they never mentioned ET life. All they mentioned was there's something in the space in our air uh, that is doing something anomalous. We don't know what it is. We want to know so we can figure out what technology it is and use it for ourselves, right? And that's what it continued being. So even though
Yeah,
that was a huge moment for disclosure, and for those of you tuning in that aren't aware of the timeline, I'll just give you a really brief timeline to get to that point. You know, there was a UFO crash in the 1933 in Italy with Mussolini. The U.S. government went in there soon after during World War II, stole the craft, and kept it within private contractors in the U.S. Roswell occurred in 47. San Antonio, New Mexico occurred in 1945. In the last 4 weeks, all of this has been validated as truth, and even Roswell's come out now in mainstream news as actually occurring. And all of those UFOs were collected and reverse engineered to the point that the 3 videos that they released in 2017 were actually reverse engineered shadow government craft, not actually alien craft, but was reverse engineered. From 47 till present, all types of programs came out. We had Project Blue Book, we had the Codon project of University of Colorado, all these different ones looking at the UFO phenomena to see what it is. Many people in these programs went in as skeptics, came out as believers, like J. Allen Hynek. Fast forwarding all the way to 2001, we have the Disclosure Project with Stephen Greer, and we have the hearing that he had in Washington, D.C. This was a huge milestone where a lot of people got inspired to then become ufologists. And after that, we see a huge array of ufologists: Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Linda Moulton Howe. A lot of people have been into this, but it became the time for people trying to get the truth out. From 47 up until from 50s up until 2017, even though this was being studied by the governments and who knows who else, it was ridiculed on the mainstream media. They would have music in the background. Do 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 do. They have pictures of green men. They'd be making fun of the whole subject. But then something happened in 2016, 2017, where the green light was given to stop ridiculing this, get rid of the truth embargo, and start disclosing the truth. And that's the whole conversation we can have in a moment if you want to, of why that occurred. But then so now we get to 2017. We have these 3 videos come out, and from 2017 up until a month ago, it was technology, technology, technology. What is this? Is it a
mhm.
foreign adversary? Is it a technology that can take us out? Does China have this technology? Where is it coming from? Was not even at in the question, unless it was a foreign adversary. all of a sudden 4 or 5 weeks ago, we start hearing David Grush come out and say that there is evidence to suggest that not evidence to suggest, he said a blatant statement that the US government has been reverse engineering craft of non-human origin, non-human intelligences for decades, and that they have created all types of technology and has been hidden from the public and have been lied to. And that was the beginning of just a series of disclosures occurring in the last month.
Yeah. You know, that's what got me interested in this topic was I was working at Bell Labs as a
Uh-huh.
consultant, and I was talking to one of the scientists outside. Back then, I used to smoke cigarettes, and this guy was out there smoking a pipe, and I was talking to him, and he asked me what I did, and I was like, yeah, I'm just a consultant here, upgrading computers, and and he
Mm-hmm.
goes, did you know that? He goes, um, did you know that the technology for the chip came from a reverse engineered thing, UFO? I said, no, I didn't know
What?
that. And he goes, so does fiber optics. And he told me that he had worked on reverse engineering this craft. This was 1999. This guy told me, and at that time, I wasn't into really UFOs or anything. That's kind of what started me researching and digging down this hole. And one of the other things that you talk about, other than the technology, one of the things that and crash, there is another sort of fringy area of this is that they've been digging these things up out of the ground.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how long they've been there. That's probably one of the purposes of the Smithsonian.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. Yeah, so they've been finding him in all types of ways because when it first came out a month ago, he said UFO crash retrievals. And then pretty soon they changed that to not UFO crash retrievals, but just to UFO retrievals. Because people were asking why are they crashing, and he was saying, well, actually, the majority of them aren't crashing; they're found fully intact, right?
Mm-hmm.
Landed or abandoned, or as you just suggested, even buried from ancient times. So we're finding them in all types of ways. One other, a lot of mainstream people are saying, well, if these beings came from another planet, another dimension, won't they have the technology advanced enough in order to not crash? And so Stephen Greer released some of this information that others have that after Nikola Tesla, they figured out a way to utilize scalar waves in order to disrupt the propulsion system, the navigation system of UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that they're crashing is also a reverse engineered extraterrestrial technology that makes it that they can't basically fly anymore and they're having crash landings occur. And they've been collecting it ever since. And
Yeah.
a lot of what they do is, even though the black budget programs, they can hide a lot of things, in order to cover up more of their footprints, they actually get the private contractors to take this technology and start working on reverse engineering it. And then the private contractors are protected. They don't have to give out the proprietary secrets. So that's kind of how they've been doing that so far up until now. Because about a week or so ago, the Congress put out a legislation that no more taxpayer money is allowed to be used for black budget programs. An amnesty was given to any whistleblower in these programs that want to come out and speak about what's going on. And what this caused is that, the guy that came out with the story in the interview with David Grush, he actually put out, he was on News Nation a few days ago and said that the whistleblowers are saying that there's one aerospace agency, a very big aerospace agency in the US, that's trying to get rid of their technology, reverse engineered UFO that they have, and the actual UFO that they've had for decades, because they're kind of concerned that they're going to have to face criminal charges because of all the lies that they've been doing for decades from the public.
Mm. So what is it you think is different now than what was different, say, 1999 when I first found out about this stuff? Like,
Yeah.
why is it coming out? You know, 25 years after some of it already started to leak, like
Right,
big
right.
time.
So there's multiple reasons. Like there's the mainstream, the linear reasons. I'll talk about that. Then there's the spiritual reasons as well. So I would say like the on the linear aspect of it all is that so many people picked up the story and became started disclosing information, and many people, not only just ufologists, but then also many whistleblowers started coming out because many of these whistleblowers, they were threatened. They didn't want to hold the truth back. And if you look at what they've been saying, like people's families have been threatened, trafficking, human trafficking is a part of this. atrocities have happened. People have been murdered over this, right? It's just Stephen Greer's press conference that he did not too long ago was show some of this stuff. The atrocities are so hardcore. Crimes against humanity is so hardcore. The extortion of money, the black budget money that's been utilized nonstop for so many decades, and then
Mhm.
once you're corrupt and then you can get away with something, many times people try to get away with bigger things. And
Oh
the way
yeah.
that works is our taxpayer money and the overall budget of the US government has been corrupted through these programs, right? Don't like just for example, the military industrial complex, the amount of money we're sending foreign companies to foreign countries, right? Happening right now, but is
Mhm.
actually being rerouted to our own private contractors in the US by getting the weapons from them, right? So much corruption has been happening that it's getting to a tipping point, right? On that level. Now the whistleblowers that have been disclosing all this information, as you can tell if you just look at some of the information coming out, they're freaking angry. A lot of them have PTSD. It's messed up their whole life, right? What they've seen, what they've been threatened with. And when you know that there's these craft out there, but when you know that there's alien life out there, and then you told to shut it up, and you know that this whole entire world could shift with this information,
Mhm.
maybe some of them fall in line with it. But over a period of time, the more and more people that are in the know, there's also those people on the other side of it that really want to disclose and let people know about this information, right? So that happened. When 2001, 2002 hit, all of a sudden there was a whole new interest in this. And Stephen Gray had a good part of it, and also other elements like spiritually that I'll mention in a second had a part of it. That it just inspired so many individuals to go out there and start becoming full time ufologists, full time professionals. There were ufologists before 2000, but there wasn't like this many and this many conferences on it. So the amount of people that are being informed constantly, amount of YouTube channels that will increase with the data coming out. 1 million subscribers, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, specifically about this topic, got to such a point that they needed to get in front of it before it came out in a way that they didn't have control over.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's one part. Now, the spiritual aspect of it all is two things: quarantine, right, and cycles of time. Quarantine is the whole idea that we've been in an age where humanity has been in quarantine from being able to communicate with extraterrestrial life and interact with them. And there were times in our past that we were able to communicate and interact, but we've been in quarantine because of our level of consciousness. And the end of quarantine was tied into the whole 2012 Aquarian shift and all that, which means that we're now in an age where we're open to have open communication and interaction with them. And a case in point here would be the Israeli space chief that was the head of the Israeli space
Mhm.
program coming out saying that we have communication with these beings, but we're not at the level that they are ready to communicate with us. But now quarantine is over. They're able to come down to land if they wanted to and interact, but they won't because of still the way our structures are, the power structures are in the world. Cycles of time. There's four ages, and they go in 26, 25, 26,000 cycles.
Mhm.
And it's like the golden age, bronze age, silver age, dark ages. We've been in the dark ages, the Kali Yuga. So the Kali Yuga is
Mhm.
now over, and we're now entered what is called the Dwarpa Yuga and the Bronze Age. And Dwarpa Yuga is when we start rejoining and understanding and remembering. And part of us remembering is not just remembering who we are on this planet and our potential, not just remembering our past lives on this planet, but truly remembering our position, our connection to the rest of the galaxy. Okay. So all of these things combined, I feel, is a recipe for this disclosure to occur. And what they've been trying to do is because it's been hidden for so long, they don't want to make everybody so inherently angry and upset at them for how much they lied to us.
Mhm.
So they attempted to get behind it and start dripping it by saying, "We're seeing stuff in the skies. What is it? What is it? What is it? Let's start researching. Maybe we can find out and make those craft ourselves." But
Mhm.
what they didn't tell you is, no, they actually know what those craft are. It's actually belongs to them. They've had them for decades. But by telling you we don't know what it is and we're creating it now, they can release it in a way that looks like they weren't lying to us in the first place.
Yeah, that I was just thinking too. You talked about our spirituality evolving high enough, or to where we're going to meet these extraterrestrials, on a level
Yeah.
that's probably safe for them and safe for us.
Hmm.
You know, I think maybe our spirituality is rising to a point where if the government discloses this now, we're kind of like, so what? That's we want the real thing. We want the actual communication with our star brothers and sisters that are
Yeah.
out there.
Right. Right. It's so interesting because when these videos come out, I watch the comments, right? I read the comments because they're on mainstream platforms. 90% plus of all the people watching it aren't in that world. They're just
Mhm.
regular folk. And so I'm wondering what they're thinking, right? And like 10 years ago, the people that would watch these channels were the ones saying, "Oh my God, this is BS. They're lying to us." Blah blah blah. But then people like you and I, like 10 plus years ago, were like, "Finally, they're saying something. Disclosure. This is not enough disclosure, right?" And now it's flipped, dude. Like, read the comments, and regular folk are like, "What? A high-level intelligence official is saying this? Congress has vetted him out, said it's all true. What are you trying to say? This is we're being visited." And the people in our community don't believe it.
It is weird. Like sometimes I mean, I'm like, no, this can't be real.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of people lost all faith. So that's what it gets into the whole understanding of discernment, right? Because how do you know what's their agenda? How do you know what drip disclosure is being dripped from them and
Hmm.
what is genuine truth? Well, the way I look at it, I don't have the answer because ultimately I'm not them and they know what they're doing more than I know what they're doing. But this is the way I'm using my own discernment. There's a few different things going on. When you see a lot of the beings people talking just about the craft and how they can utilize it, right? You immediately could have some suspicions on it when they talk about the technology, especially when they take it further and they talk about how to weaponize the technology, right? Red flag. But then when they take it one more step and they say that they are posing a threat to us, right? Then you start questioning it, not because um, there's not because they're saying this, not because that they maybe believe it's a threat. It's the fact that there is no evidence to suggest these are a threat, but they're still saying it is, right?
Hmm.
So a lot of the people are saying that, and if you look at some of the research, even the documents and the some of the things from the 50s, 60s, and 70s were saying that we now know that these UFOs pose no threat to us, and if they will be doing something for a long time. So what's
Yeah.
happening now is a lot of Congress members uh, are saying that when people are asking, "Do you think this is a threat? They have some technology can wipe us out." The answer was, "Well, if they were a threat, they would have done this decades ago. We have no evidence to suggest they're a threat." But another reason why they do think it's a threat is because most of these UFOs show up at nuclear bases and
Hmm.
they're like, "What's going on here?" That gets into the whole first atomic bomb thing, call out to the universe. They're going to destroy themselves. They're going to destroy us by splitting the atom, incarnate and help, right?
Hmm.
So that's why it's happening there. But then what comes out with the David West thing? A lot of people are doubting it because they're just like, "Oh, this is a more disclosure." Um, a lot of whistleblowers that are fringe whistleblowers or alternative whistleblowers in our community are even upset because some other guy that has no name is now out there getting all the credit for it, but they've been doing this for decades, right? So this emotional reactory element is a part of their response to what's going on with David Grush. But ultimately, what David Grush has done is make millions of people say, "Are you telling us our government is lying to us?" And they've been lying to us for this long. And they have technology that could cure disease and all these other things. And they know that we have internet. He literally said, when they said, "Why don't you call them extraterrestrials?" The evidence suggests they're interdimensional. Okay. It's
Hmm.
getting to a whole other level. And the fact that what he's doing is making people lose trust in the agenda of people makes me think that it's a little more aligned with some actual true disclosure.
Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah. You the idea that these beings are a threat, I think, is completely absurd.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if you reach that level of an advancement, and they're concerned about turning off nukes, right there, that tells me that there is no threat, at least with this group of beings.
Right.
I also sometimes think, I've interviewed a lot of people that the Greys are possibly some type of organic AI.
Hmm.
That's what they're doing. They're not even maybe a fully conscious life form like we are, or maybe we're not obviously not a fully conscious life form. We don't even know what that is. Um, and it just gets so strange because okay, so you have these AI guys, so then we have to wonder like what other beings are there? They're coming from other planets. What other beings are coming from other dimensions? How many
Hmm.
dimensions are there? Can beings on other planets travel through different dimensions to get
Yeah.
here? There's so much of that too that's involved. And when you start asking those questions, then you have to kind of ask, okay, well, if this is happening and they're doing this, what about us? What can we do? What are we? Are we just these blobs of consciousness,
Dude, seriously, yeah.
existing, creating reality as we focus on different things and different probabilities? The whole thing is weird.
Yeah. I mean, we're so limited in our understanding that, but we have this arrogance that we're so intelligent. And I feel that in that lack of humility creates tunnel vision in us really understanding what the universe is and our place within it, right? Because Billy Carson said in one of his interviews recently that are we just a science experiment of a kid in another dimension?
It could
Like
be.
another reality just like created this bubble and this whole universe is in it, and then he just put it away in his closet. We really don't know, and a lot of people who say they do know, who are we to like, and they're in communication with some sort of entity, some sort of God presence, some sort of interdimensional being. Who are we to know that that being isn't relaying information based on their perspective, their understanding that might also be limited, or that entity or being is one is multiple fractals away from even a higher source that has an even more absolute truth, right? Or what we do know, what we do are starting to understand, let me say, is that physicality isn't physical.
Right.
You and I aren't physical. We're made out of quantum energy. We used to think it was all atoms. Now we know it's quantum frequency.
Right.
But what we found out with quantum frequency is constantly shifting in and out of reality, phasing in and out.
Yeah.
And also as Billy Carson and others say, we're actually the quantum vibrations are phasing in and out is light. So we're a light spectrum phasing in and out of perceivable reality. What else that we can do in this physical world does that? A hologram.
Yeah, that's the best explanation that there is right now. It's
No, right?
the hologram explains most of the phenomenon that is unexplainable in
Yeah,
quantum theory through any normal physical type of physics.
right. And I had a conversation with Craig Campombosa, who wrote this book called
Yeah.
ET Species Almanac. We just did an event a couple of days ago, and when I said this whole thing to him, he goes, "Well, you got to be careful when you say that because this world isn't fake." And I said, "Thank you for saying that because I always do a disclaimer whenever I say hologram. I say organic, conscious, harmonic,
Yes.
holographic experience." Because when you say hologram, people are like, "Oh, what? We don't exist.
Computer,
Nothing's
right?
real. We're not real. We're not organic." So I'll put that there because
Yeah.
we are like some sort of advanced code infused with consciousness, and so people relate that automatically to computers and robots and AI, and they're like, "Well, are you saying that we're just that?" First of all, I'm not saying that because I really don't know, but it seems like the parameters that those things work by are the same things that we work by, and subconsciously we
Hmm.
are creating what is happening to us through our
Yeah.
own technology, right? Like, what's a
Hmm.
hard drive? A hard drive is a dimension where information is stored, okay? And what is a computer? It is the device in order to go into a dimension that we created with our own technology to explore that data set.
Hmm.
So is that what we are? But that's like a more limited version of it, and subconsciously we're creating that whole aspect as well. You know, I don't know, but maybe this disclosure stuff will lend us some answers where we really start realizing what we are, and I feel it's a positive thing because as we start understanding how the reality really works, and if we get taught this from an early age, and all of a sudden our perception of who we are and our capabilities shift, maybe we can actually start rewriting the code to work for everyone. You know,
And
like the
that's another
Matrix.
thing that I completely agree with.
Yeah.
It's so funny, man. Like, because that's all you really have to do is change one little thing, one little thing in the
Yeah.
way a person thinks. You've completely altered their reality.
Straight up, man.
And then if they have children or come in contact with people, it's like the mind virus thing. Then they change somebody else's idea. People think that it's impossible. They're like, oh no, you can't make change in this world. You can't do this. You can't do that. We can.
Yeah.
We can do that. All it takes is one changing an idea
Yeah.
and spread that around.
And if that idea is something that's become commonly accepted around the world, and
Hmm.
it's an idea that is introduced right at birth because that's what it is, right?
Then
Like
you
there's
don't
so
know
many
anything
ideas,
else.
right?
Not
And
cluttered
that
anymore.
right, and what happens to occur now is most of the ideas we're given from childhood are limiting ones.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing right now. I don't know, like the work that you do and some of the stuff that I do, trying to propose questions. For me, that's how I present. I'd say, here's a question.
Yeah,
Maybe we should think about this. You know, and,
yeah,
and hope that grows in people's minds and changes things. Because one of the other things I think too is if we don't change, we're doomed. I think like this is our opportunity to really have that paradigm shift that people have been talking about for the last 20 years.
yeah. I mean, this whole system is not serving us anymore. It served us because it allowed us to do the shadow work that we were meant to do. But
Hmm.
it's getting to a tipping point now that if we continue down this route, we're going to destroy the planet, and we're a part of that planet. So what really needs to occur is we need to figure out what works for everybody and change it, because we have the education, we have the tools, we know how to navigate psychology, we know what traumas from childhood create what kind of general experiences later in life.
Hmm.
All the stuff is commonly out there, but because of so many different things like corporate greed, the way the advertising and marketing world is, that the way the pharmaceutical companies are, so many different elements don't allow for inherent truths that we have already figured out intellectually, right, to be embedded into society. So that's why what is a part of this cycle and this shift of time is that institutions that no longer serve us are crumbling, and as they're crumbling, they're in their last hoorah, if you will, and they're attempting to keep it all together. So when we see all these things being exposed, people are being very angry. But I see it as they've been getting away with stuff for so long that it's about time that they get exposed. Because the first thing that needs to happen is, so a lot of people need to get angry first to do that darkness. So frustrated and angry with what has occurred to us, and then once you go through that element of that awakening, then we start figuring out different ways to change it. And I feel we're right in the middle of that.
We are,
Mhm.
and we've been, I don't know, indentured servants to these
Mm,
companies
yeah.
for a long time now, and lied to for generations. That's why at least like for me, I was brought up believing all kinds of false information,
Hmm.
about myself, about reality, about
Right.
history. All this stuff was false that I was
Yeah.
told, and then you kind of start thinking like, wow, this isn't all true, and but the key is that I was taught that I need them. I was taught that I need a government,
Mm,
that I need this pill to make me better, that I need this entertainment to make me happy. And none of that
yeah.
is true. None of it.
No. It's sometimes I try to reconcile the whole aspect of how manipulatable humans are, right? But how powerful we are at the same time. Okay. So I'm like, how are we so mind controlled by these systems? Because there's those that incarnate that just cannot be controlled. Those are the avatars that are destined and come down here with that spark of awakening in them, because they're the ones. Because this is like a huge state. This is like a theater play, like
It
almost literally like
is.
that.
Yes.
And in that theater play, some people are just assigned. So it's not like you are awakening people up. You're better than others. No, this is a theater play. That person came down to have this experience. You came down to be awakened and not to be able to be controlled, so that you can play the role of awakening people to the next game of the next chapter of this reality. So there are those that can't be controlled, can't follow, and they just from childhood they're having these questions. But most people are so manipulatable, right? Like, just I don't even need to explain to you what's happened in the last few years and how many people just follow the hype. And even when things are just thrown in your face and marketed to, and things look fishy, they still follow the narrative. And a lot of times when people are like, "Don't trust the media," and then all of a sudden the media is on the side of something that they're supporting and against someone they're against, they go ahead and start joining the media because now they're actually validating your belief system, right? So, so my conclusion with this is that when you're at a level of fear,
Hmm.
your frequency shifts so much that they're able to go in and implant belief systems that become your reality. So if you
Hmm.
do the inner work to shift out of fear, or you never had it in the first place because you just know everything's gonna be fine, you're aware of that whole thing, then you get to a level where they can't manipulate you, and that's when we continue down this evolutionary track and become super powerful beings,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, and I think the fear these can scare people by saying if you don't have this bad thing will happen to you.
Yeah,
So then all of a sudden you're thinking, okay, well then I have to have that, and once you have it, then you're dependent upon them to have it, whatever it is, whether it's shelter, energy, money,
mhm.
it doesn't matter.
It's interesting too, like when it comes to that and the government, because people tend to trust the government, even though the government has lost a lot of trust rate lately. But even people who don't trust the government, trust it in some elements and aspects of it all. And it's the archetype of the father. The government. It's so metaphoric, and the way this stuff works, just like the whole archetype of an absent father is not really there, punishing you when you do something wrong. That is what we put into the government. And actually, you can probably even do research on this and see, based on somebody's own relationship with their father, is how they respond to authority and government,
Right.
right? It's crazy. So I guess we need to heal all the daddy issues, and then maybe we'll all figure everything out. That's not even a joke, dude. Like if we worked on figuring that out, our relationship would shift as well. And but what it comes down to is the wounded masculine. If you want to get to the higher level, and then it becomes to how you father yourself, right? And if you're
Hmm.
not able to find that within yourself because you didn't have an example of it, you end up having this relationship with authority and government that is, I guess, disharmonic. And so we've been into such a this reality of authority and hierarchy for so long that people feel that the only way to get inherent truths is by being giving it to them by their father because of their wounded masculine issues.
Hmm.
But what we're getting to now is the realization that these truths are within us.
Yeah.
And how do we listen to our own souls? Because we've been told for so long that we don't know. We don't know any better, right? So it's a retraining that's going on right now, and a lot of people in this community and consciousness awareness stuff, they lose hope in people. But I feel that the reason why we see so much chaos right now is because we're going through that process where we're having to re-educate ourselves and unlearn these
Right.
truths. And as we're doing that, it's not going to look pretty. Like there's a lot of stuff to work through. There's a lot of traumas, unexpressed
Yeah.
traumas, right, are coming to
Hmm.
the surface right now.
Absolutely. Because, and I think too that the truth is painful, obviously, that when you have this realization that this has been going on, so it was going to make people angry.
Yeah.
But too, once your perspective is open that broad, though, too, the way we respond to that emotion is going to be different than what we normally would
Yes.
do, which is like
It's
fight or have
non-reactory.
war or anything like that.
Mhm.
It's going to be like, okay, how am I going to spread new ideas
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
and
And
get
when we
people
shift that,
to move their consciousness a little bit?
mhm. Yeah, and that goes in with how we're shifting our frequency. Right now, we're harmonizing the frequency of the planet. So, you mentioned people think they need government and all that. And when we're at a lower frequency where we're not able to, if we didn't have any type of authority or any type of structure going on here, we would actually go to our lowest primal versions of ourselves, right?
Hmm.
So that's the whole thing that they've kept us in fear on, because they know if they don't exist anymore, we'll be at such a level of fear that we'll resort to our primal urges. However, even within that, love always prevails. You see
Yeah.
the hope and stuff. When you're starving and when you have kids to protect, it gets to a whole other level. But so what needs to happen is we need to shift the frequencies of ourselves, empower ourselves enough, do the work so we don't get triggered from these emotional states, so that when government as we know it dissolves, we're able to be our own sovereign beings and
Yeah.
able to live in harmony with each other.
Right. And it can be done. It's
Mhm,
absolutely, if you were to ask me 20 years ago if this was possible, I would have said absolutely not.
mhm.
It's amazing how much has changed.
Yeah, I know, right?
You know,
I
at one
just
time, this knowledge was only available to people that belonged to secret societies and
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
mystics, and now it's out here for everybody to use.
Exactly. And yeah, it's like it's really just beginning, man. Like the amount of information that is coming out now, like going back to the UFO stuff just in the last month, like so many different like mind-blowing pieces of information came out. And if that is now the new what's it called, foundation of us to build from, right?
Mhm.
Because before it was like UFOs exist and all this stuff, people having that question. That was the new one,
Right.
2017. And now we have, who are these beings? Where they're coming from? Ancient beings. They exist. They're visiting us, and
Mhm.
that's where we're at now. Oh my god, man! Like, what's gonna happen in the next few years? Especially like some of the stuff that they've been saying in the last month is about the beings that they've been interacting with and how they've been communicating with us, and how there's like specific three different races that all believe that they've been here on Earth longer than we have and longer than each other has, and they're kind
Mhm.
of at war with each other on who actually has claim on our planet because of how they're connected to our planet over the other ones, right? All of these dramas are starting to unfold, and I feel like this is happening perfectly. What needed to happen, right, is people needed to know that there's something out there. There's something going on that we don't know about. And
Right.
now it's like, well, actually, there are beings visiting us, guys, and alien life is one of the news stations said to Leslie Keene, the one who did the reporting, and also was the
Mhm.
one who released the 2017 thing. Is this a soft disclosure to alien life? And she goes, I think so. I mean,
Yeah,
this is huge,
it is.
right? And so, like, what is going to happen next? I feel now that we have the inherent awareness that we're not alone in the universe and we're being visited, is these stories of how we're interacting with these beings are going to start coming out.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that they probably do. Like back to our own creation. I think that they did create us. But I wonder too. Back. How do you say the Greys are some type of organic AI?
Yeah,
What if we are some type of organic AI that's coming to its own
self awareness.
realization?
Yeah, I think of that as well, and and I, I don't say it, and I don't say it because people are so divided on AI. Like, I don't want to even tell someone
but we
any
could be
image from it.
AI.
I
We
know,
don't
right?
know it.
I know. We don't know, and then people just think that they know. You know what I'm saying? So like when I have that conversation with people, people refuse to believe it, and it's almost like how um, a lot of people, like I had a Islamic girlfriend once, and I used to believe in evolution at that point, right? and I and I told her that we're from monkeys, and she just wouldn't. She just didn't want to accept that we could have any level of monkey DNA within us. You know what I mean? It's because we like see ourselves as so entirely like spectacular. Like an AI to us is some sort of foreign invasion, some sort of non souled experience. There's no soul in
Mhm.
it, right? But if this is all frequency and vibration and the physical body doesn't exist, it's almost like there is some sort of coding that has created this apparition in front of you. And then the organic part of it, the organic AI, is the infusion of a soul into that, you know?
Mhm.
So I mean, I don't really know what we are, but I have heard stories that of ET life that they not only created us, but then they incarnated their own. They fractalized and fragmented their own souls into our bodies
Yeah.
to live and have an experience within another dimension that they created
Mhm.
simultaneously.
It's wild. I mean, but it's completely plausible with what we know about physics.
Hmm. Exactly, yeah. Like, and we pierced through the veil. I mean, through quantum physics, we literally pierced through the veil, and now we've just seen that reality isn't what we think it is. And there's so many smoking guns when it comes to quantum physics, like entanglement, non-locality, the double slit experiment.
Mhm.
Not to go down each one of what those mean,
Right.
but basically, it just shows us that everything we think is real and normal is completely different than what we could even fathom, and so much so that we don't why don't we take enough time to really ponder on what these actual things mean, right? I guess I'll give a couple examples. Like, what does it mean that a particle exists as a wave and a particle simultaneously? What does it mean when everything is a wave until it's perceived? And only when you see it, it actually acts as a physical thing. What does it mean to non-locality? That the information in one single quantum cell within your body can pull the same data from the other side of the universe. All data and all information is available all the time everywhere. And now we're actually putting that into quantum computing. What does that mean for who we are? These are the questions that I think about all the time. And so many people are just caught up in this rat race that they don't have time to really reflect on what the nature of reality is because they just got to pay the bills, and survive.
That's one of the reasons, the governments and religions have kept that box. That box is now is falling apart. And people,
Yeah.
it's like a fish doesn't know it's in the pond until it's been taken and caught.
Oh yeah, man.
And
Yeah.
and now I don't know, the pond's starting to leak into the river.
Yeah.
Then the river is going to leak into the ocean.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
I love that one. So David Wesh was also did this whole thing. I need to rewatch to remember what he said, but he was talking about how the Vatican is known for decades about ET life.
yeah,
He did a whole disclosure on that, right? So all these things that we thought were true are true. And then a lot of these things that they've been hiding from us and putting a facade out, these facades have been complete lies because they actually know what is really going on behind the scenes. And it seems religion on the highest level could be that as well.
absolutely. Because I think, you know, we've never needed priests or any, we don't need anything or a mediary to communicate with the divine or utilize the divine energy because we're made of it. We are it.
Mm-hmm.
The old I am.
Yeah. And every avatar that I ever visited never said create a religion after me. And most of them, you have actual scriptures of them saying that don't follow any false idols, right?
Mhm.
And they didn't say I'm your idol. They just said don't follow false idols. Find the kingdom of heaven within you. Literally, yo, Jesus was talking about quantum physics. Find the kingdom of heaven within you, the God particle within you, right? So I've always found it very interesting how many prophets and messiahs and saints and priests we have as intermediaries of the one
Mhm.
when the scriptures literally say that that shouldn't exist. And on one level, we've been at a level of hierarchy, Kali Yuga, authority and hierarchy. So many people were at a lower frequency that only those that chose to actually follow the path of oneness were able
Mhm.
to communicate the words. But those paths of oneness got corrupted so quickly, right? Like 200 to 300 years after Jesus, after the Cathars.
Yeah.
The Cathars were like Buddhism, Christianity, and pagan rituals with nature combined in one.
Yeah.
And then it all got corrupted. Hinduism from the Vedic awareness used to be so into inherent truths, and now every taxi cab driver in India has a Shiva in their car, but none of them even know the stories of what this means about the universe and who we truly are,
Right.
right? So it's just like all these things get corrupted, and that's okay because it was where we were at in consciousness. So
Mhm.
the reason why you are even saying it's all within you, you don't need a priest, is because we're no longer in that age. We're in the age where we need to tap into our own inner truths, and if we don't, we're going to give up our power and we can never be sovereign beings.
Right.
And that's really what it's all about right now. The Dwarpa Yuga, the theme, because every given thousands of years ago, everything has a theme. Kali Yuga, hierarchy, authority, delusion. Okay, the theme of delusion. The Dwarpa Yuga, the age of sovereignty, right?
Mhm.
The age of sovereignty and the age of energy. So in this age, we're at the beginning phases, only in the first 100 years of this age. This is gonna be 1,000 years long. We're in the first beginning stages of understanding what it means to be sovereign. And as we do that, a lot of us go a little too extreme to the individual side because we've been so controlled for so long.
Mhm.
We're like, screw everything, we're a sovereign being, we don't care about anyone, right? And then what I feel is gonna happen is we soon find a balance of how to be part of the collective but also maintain our sovereignty.
Right. Yeah, I see us two moving. You have this extreme awakening, right? And then you kind of running wild for a while, like a kid
Yeah.
let out of the house.
Yeah.
And then it becomes communal. You start running into other people that are also running wild, and
Right.
they combine forces, and
Exactly. Yeah, I see that too. So as I said, like I'm hopeful because we're just at the beginning phases of this new reality, and it's all about perception, really. Like when systems crumble, stock markets crash, monetary systems no longer work, things don't function. Have you put all of your soul into what that system is? So much so that when it crumbles, everything you think that you are, need, and desire has gone, and you don't know who and what you are anymore, and depression kicks in and whatever. Or are you at a level of peace within yourself that even if this external reality that doesn't really take away from the fact that you can still live, drink water, eat food, right? The things that
Right.
you really need to live, as long as those things are still there, and then can you move over into a different perspective of it? Like, as you're sharing the river into the ocean, the sea into the ocean,
Hmm.
these are all different levels of perception. Are you able to be at a level of perception where you're in the ocean, or are you stuck in the pond, so much so that when the pond starts draining into the ocean, you start screaming because you think you're gonna die because
That's a good expansion of that analogy.
Yeah, so it's all like one of my friends, he was a channeler for ETs. He said he channeled this being from Sirius. And when I first started doing events with Portal to Ascension in 2008, 9, 10, 2010, I went on the road and I did channeling events from Sedona, from San Diego to Vancouver and back down for a couple of years. I would do the sound healing, he would do the channeling. And we
Mhm.
did all these Q&As with a being from Sirius. And what he would say to people when they would give him all this credit of being this higher being, and he goes, you got to stop looking at it as a hierarchy. We don't see that. We see you as masters. And the reason why you see it like this is because the only difference is, imagine a canyon and there's two cliffs on either side of the canyon and the canyon in the middle. You're standing inside the canyon at the bottom looking up. We're
Mhm.
standing on top of the cliff looking down and everything around you. We just have a different perspective than you
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
do. Mm-hmm.
Although with that, people probably think I know me my own personal experience out in the world, people kind of think I'm insane, but
I know, right?
because I
But that's
see the
shifting.
world and it's completely different perspective.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's shifting a lot, especially because a lot of these conspiracies have been proven to be true now. You know, like I have a folder on my phone with government declassified documents. So in case I
Yeah.
ever get to a situation where someone just doesn't believe me, and I'm like, well, if you have some time, I'm like, what do you think this is? Haven't utilized it yet, but I've I kept it. I really first started doing it for my parents because my dad. I remember like 10 years ago, he Googled my name, right, and all this stuff comes up. UFOs, this conspiracy, this, right, and he like got really angry. He had this huge argument with me about what am I gonna do with my life, and he goes, "What is up with all this alien stuff?" He was infuriated, bro, like really, really upset. And now, if he says what is up with it, I'll just pull up some videos and show it to him. Dude, it was so funny because my dad's into quantum physics and stuff. Like, it's so
Hmm.
interesting because I see that he's into space and astronomy, all on the linear element and quantum physics, and I'm into all that stuff. And if it wasn't for his genetic imprint, maybe I wouldn't have been into it. Like, I see how I'm
Hmm.
a reflection of him, but I'm into deep esoterics and the spirituality as well. And he's not into that. He's into like nuts and bolts science.
Right.
So he's watching this. I forget what it's called. This is this video. Okay, it's this theory, mainstream theory on why aliens haven't come down yet. It's a mainstream theory. It's like in the quantum realm physics, right? And it's like got this common name. It's like Stephen Hawking kind of energy around it. And so he's like in his algorithm. This video showed up like a week ago, and it's just like this 2 million subscriber platform, hundreds of thousands of views. Something someone mainstream would watch. And it's talking about all these theories and why alien life hasn't communicated with us, and then all of a sudden in the video it goes, even though some alien and UFO enthusiasts will deny what I'm saying, and in that video they took a clip of me from my freaking conference that I did in San Diego because I was on KPBS and CBS San Diego about my conference
Hmm.
because we called them and said we're doing UFO stuff. and they came to it. So they did a video, and this freaking channel, 2 million subscribers, pulled the video of me on stage when they wanted to talk about how alien enthusiasts would disagree with his theory. And my dad's freaking watching it. And he texts me, he goes, I was watching this video and you show up at 5 minutes. But that was mind blowing for me. You know what I mean? That
Mhm.
it even came. Maybe my dad will like now realize what I'm doing is really huge because he doesn't really understand. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was cool too. They didn't do a hit piece on me. He just said this is what the theory is, and alien enthusiasts will disagree with me. And then they showed my conference with me on stage. That was it.
What was the theory that you presented at that?
What was the theory that they said
Yeah,
they? Let me find out right now. It's right here actually. The video. I was watching the Fermi paradox. Have you heard of it?
yeah.
Yeah, so it's just super mainstream paradox. I didn't even watch it all, but it's the paradox of how aliens can't visit our planet and why they're not, right? And
Hmm.
this video wasn't saying this is the case. He was just talking about the Fermi paradox and what it means, and then showing the counter argument that some people actually believe that alien life is visiting us, and that was where they
Hmm.
showed me. You know? And it's crazy because out of the whole video, my whole conference, I had like 7 or 8 speakers at my conference on stage, and they
Hmm.
just happened to coincidentally pick me, who was the founder of the conference. So it was pretty cool that I was on it, you know?
That is really cool.
Yeah. So and it's becoming mainstream, you know, like the paranormal is becoming normal.
It is, yeah. I remember like, even for a long time it was like one paranormal show on TV. Now there's like channels dedicated to paranormal, channels dedicated to UFOs.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Hmm.
When I was
Yeah.
growing up as a kid, I mean, I'm a little older than you, but the only thing out there was this show called In Search of. That was all there
Okay.
was about it,
Yeah.
with Leonard Nimoy from Star Trek.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. Okay.
and now it's like everywhere.
Right. Yeah. I mean, whenever I'm trying to tell someone that doesn't know about this work, what I do, I just like, and it's really like, oh, what? And well, have you watched the show Ancient Aliens? And like 7 or 8 out of 10 people say yes,
Yeah.
you know? And even though like I'm not 100% in alignment with everything Ancient Aliens, I do see it as a complete positive aspect of bringing this awareness to
Hmm.
people. It kind of created a polarity actually, because some people became really anti this stuff because they just think it's off the wall crazy pseudo archaeology, pseudoscience, and then a lot of regular people are like never even thought about the fact that ETs could have visited us in the past, and now they believe in it. So I mean, that whole just regular people that watch regular TV that aren't even into ETs have maybe even seen an episode of that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Like when people ask me like what I do with the podcast, that's what I automatically will say to them. It's like, well, have you ever watched Ancient Aliens?
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of go from there because I've had a lot of the people from Ancient Aliens on,
Yeah.
like Michael Carter and others. And then as I try to explain to them what I'm doing. So that's
Yeah.
always my hang with that, because it's hard to explain it to people
Yeah,
that
it
don't
is,
know.
especially because it's so much bigger than just UFOs. Like you're talking about spirituality and consciousness, and a lot of people don't realize how the spiritual stuff has to connect with UFOs and alien life.
Yeah, and like for me too, it's also the occult.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't. It was like how I got like when I was a kid, I was into the occult. My mom worked at Princeton University splitting atoms, so that was
Mm-hmm.
kind of like my physics background,
Nice.
And then I got into the UFO thing, and it just grew and grew and grew, and I started to see how meditation and Buddhism. I just started to see how all this stuff is connected.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's
Yeah,
all part of the same thing.
exactly. Yeah, that's how kind of was for me too. I was more into like science and mathematics, and when I started looking for the root of all religion, and I found the Sumerian scriptures, what really got me into spirituality was the metaphors that they had that was some advanced quantum sciences, and the fact that they had an image of our solar system with all the planets in the right place. I was into
Mhm.
astronomy, so I'm like, wait a second, what do these guys know about this stuff? And that immediately took me to frequency and vibration, which
Mhm.
brought me to meditation. Because what is meditation? What is eating well? What is positive thinking? Those are all frequency things. And what's frequency? It's quantum physics. So is quantum physics the bridge between spirituality and the mainstream? This was one of the first things I ever kind of like contemplated upon.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting. I mean, it's interesting now that people can put it together, at least, or people like you and me are kind of putting it out there as one coherent, well, it's coherent but mutable. I think that's important
Mm-hmm.
too, is that it has to be mutable and changeable and fluid too, because without that, there's no further expansion too. You have
Yeah.
to be kind of careful not to get hard on it and get
Oh,
rigid.
seriously, man.
Put
Right.
ourselves, yeah, put ourselves in another box, but a bigger box. You know what I
Straight up,
mean?
man. Yeah, that's what we see with mainstream science, right? Like for the most part, that science should be the exploration of what is possible, but instead, in many elements, it's become the go-to as this is what it is. This is science, rather than could there be something else beyond this? You know, a lot of times it's like, well, we figured out the truth because this is what this says, and that's therefore that's all it can be, right?
Right.
And that's what happened with Newtonian physics. Nothing smaller than the atom, right? Now it's, well, we have subatomic particles. That's what happened with archaeology. Humans are only here for 100,000 years because that's the last skeleton we found. That is science. That's it. That's evidence. We've got it. Then they found a skeleton remain in Morocco 300,000 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what was the answer to that? Humans are only 300,000 years old. That's how long we've been here. It should be like, no, we don't really know because we found the oldest one to be 300,000 years. But since that's the oldest we found, that doesn't mean that is the oldest in the world,
Right.
right? So what else is possible? Because if you start saying there is nothing else that's possible because this is what we found, that's when the mainstream academia and the research funds stop being spent on exploring further truths.
Yeah. And that's really the key thing that we're moving away from is the duality to probabilities,
Mm,
you know,
I love that.
because we're raised thinking like it's this or that, good or bad,
Yeah,
and now we're starting to look at things like how many probabilities actually are there, even the ones that seem impossible,
yeah,
but they're still probable,
mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
I think
And that,
that's the big shift.
I agree with that. And that's what the whole quantum physics thing is as well. When they looked at the wave, that they realized that the wave exists as infinite probabilities, and it only becomes a reality and a specific thing when you put your own intention onto it.
Right, and because we're human, I guess we're just sort of we're programmed to look at either this or that in a
Yeah,
dualistic way. Like we all recognize duality.
exactly. But everything is so much more than that. There's so much gray area. And as
Yeah,
soon as we start embodying that and embracing that into reality, we can start creating some really amazing experiences for ourselves on this planet. You
I
know?
think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Then it becomes unlimited possibility.
Yeah,
It's
exactly, exactly.
fantastic.
Right. Yeah, I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface at what we're capable of, because even within this world of the things we could speculate, like passing through objects, maybe telepathy, levitation, that is all done with a limited mindset that we already are at. When we start expanding our consciousness and mindset, the gifts and the abilities that can come online, right, are going to be so profound. Like I always say, like Neo from the Matrix, right?
Hmm.
That whole thing is that is such a documentary on this reality, because like when you get to a level where you break free mentally and physically from the matrix, you can bend space time doesn't work in the same way anymore. You can go through portals. Who knows what is possible?
Right. Anything is possible at that point.
Mhm. Yeah,
And the possibility probably keep on expanding as our awareness expands. It has to, because that's what
yeah,
happens to us now.
right. Well, they say a lot of, like, a lot of beings visit us through starships, but many beings actually utilize their own bodies and their own merkabas in order to transport themselves
Yeah.
and teleport from one reality to another without even using external technology. So, as like, as they say, anything under the sun is possible. Everything imagined is
Yeah,
possible. Because
that's
it's like
fantastic.
when we imagine something, we're technically writing the code for that
I
imagination.
know. That's it. That's all it takes.
Instantaneously.
That's all it takes. If it can be imagined, then it
Right.
can exist.
Yeah.
It's really just that simple.
Mm-hmm.
If we can think of it, it has to be possible. Because honestly, we're not that smart to think of anything that's not possible.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
And if Source, if Source wanted to experience itself infinitely, right? And that's the original spark of Source that many scriptures and many spiritual texts and conscious people say.
yeah.
If Source wanted to experience something other than what it was self. It was the oneness, it became the Big Bang. It was the singularity, it became the duality. That means everything infinitely wants to be experienced. So
Hmm.
if you even from the most beautiful experience, harmonious experiences to the most biggest atrocities as well, is all within that.
Yeah.
So it's not really a metaphor when you say everything you imagine can be reality. I feel it's a literal situation, a literal experience. We can create a whole entire dimensions, and when beings become sentient like we are, I feel the original spark of source within every being, which was I want to create in my image, gets activated. And so we are at the place where we're all sentient to the level that we all want to create in our image. So what happens when we shift our frequency and become these creator beings on a massive level? I think we'll be all creating all types of things. Who knows? Dimensions, man. Other types of beings.
Yeah, definitely. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so before we wrap it up, do you have any events or anything you want to promote?
Yeah, I do. So okay, we got a lot going on. Just launched a new website, portal2ascension.org. So
It's nice too,
same
man.
domain name. Thank you, brother. And we have like we've been spending the last few months creating a lot of events over the next 2 years. So many events up there. And the way it works is if you go to our website, sign up, portal2ascension.org, sign up there, you'll get a username and password. And we have around 3,000 hours of free presentations. So you sign up, you get a username, password, you can log in, you can sort by speaker, category, all that stuff. Add to your watch list, continue watching later, all the bells and whistles. And we also have an app coming out for Android and iPhone that will be able to make it more easily for you to
Oh,
access.
nice.
Yeah. Well, the Roku app, Amazon, all this stuff can come out within a few months. And so check it out there. So we have a lot of events coming up there. We just finished one on Atlantis, 2-day conference on Atlantis. You can
Nice.
sign up, watch the replay. It's 22 hours, Atlantis only. Yeah, it was epic, bro. Because like what I've really been able to do, fortunately, is think of one topic and dedicate a lot of time on one topic, right? Like I did a 22-hour conference on 300,000 years of India's history, right? And that was one of my favorite events. So we even have a 2-day conference on Lemuria coming up this year. We have weekly workshops. Next week, I don't know when this is going out, but on July 15th, even if this is going out after that, you
Hmm.
can go to our YouTube channel. We have a free event called Energy Healing Spirituality and Metaphysics. It's a 5-hour event of 35-minute nonstop energy healing transmissions from different practitioners. And that's going to be on youtube.com/portal to ascension, or sign up at our website, portal2ascension.org, to get access to the Zoom link. And besides that, we have a huge conference. I'll just tell you one more thing, but best thing to do is sign up to our newsletter on our website. We have a huge conference coming up in Sedona, November 17th, 18th, 19th. It's
Hmm.
called the Crystal Skulls Conference. So if any of you are familiar with the crystal skulls, many of them are ancient skulls that have been here for a long time. And the story goes that after the fall of Atlantis, or whatever great civilization existed, that there were these skulls, these quartz skulls that were embedded with the data of humanity's history and the universe. And a lot of them have been found. So the prophecy goes when they come back together that there'll be a shift that occurs on the planet because of the frequency that they create when they're together. So the theme for this conference is in November is fulfilling an ancient prophecy. Like it's going to be next level epic, just bringing these together, man. And so, but
That's
I'm going
so
to
cool.
introduce you to some of these people, and we'll
Yeah,
have them on your show as well, so you can check
excellent.
them out.
That's
And
gonna
so
be
you'll hear them here
awesome.
on this channel, and then crystalskullsconference.com is the website.
Yeah. Wow. Man, when do you have dates for November?
Yeah, it's November 17th, 18th, 19th.
I'll have to check my
Whereabouts are you
calendar.
located?
I'm in New Jersey,
You want
but
to come out?
maybe I have to check because I actually have also in November. I have to see what date it is, but I'm going to on a paranormal investigation to the Conjuring House.
Where's that at?
It's in Rhode Island.
Oh,
It's
The
it's the
Conjuring for the movie.
yeah, it's the actual house
Andrea
that the
Perron was the.
movie was based on. That was that Lorraine and Ed Warren went to, and
Yeah, do you know Andrea Perron?
No.
Is She's a speaker on a platform. The book was made on her on her life.
Huh.
She was the kid.
Wow.
So
Yeah. So I
I'll
don't
hook
know
you up
what
with her if
date
you
that
want.
is, but yeah, definitely. I'll definitely have them on. That'll be a good segue for me to go into that investigation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That sounds
Yeah.
amazing, man.
It'll be
So
cool.
you're gonna
Like the
report
only
on it, huh?
bad thing about it is like they wouldn't allow me to like do a podcast from there. Like there's no,
Right.
you know, so I can only talk about it afterwards.
That sounds fun. So do people get kind of like experiences when they go there?
I guess I've never been to this location. I've
Dude,
gone to other paranormal
bruh.
investigations with this group, you know.
If any door opens up randomly, swinging open, and there's just blackness inside, don't go in.
I'm the guy that's
Don't
gonna
go
go
in.
in.
Shit, bro. Then how we're gonna freaking talk afterwards?
I'll be fine.
You'll be broadcasting from another dimension.
I've already been dead once and came back.
Yeah. Okay, okay. All right. So you have experience in the other realm.
Yeah.
That's cool though. But yeah, check in if you are free and want to come out, come as a
Yeah.
guest to that conference. You can set up over there and do some interviews too.
Yeah, that'll be great. I would love to. Awesome. So yeah, I'll put links to your website in the notes of this episode so my listeners can find you. And it's been great having you on again.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man.
Thanks for being out there.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Hang on for one moment and I was going to play the outro.